the breakout stars,
early on in day 3 of the draft, the Pirates called,
the wild moments, and the prospects you need to know about.
A sub-3 ERA in both single and double A.
This is Minor League Weekly, your inside look at the future of the game. And bringing in episode 8 of Minor League Weekly, it has been anything but a quiet week of the offseason. Couple of trades swinging through. MLB's top 100 prospects list officially came out a couple of days ago. The respective teams are still yet to release their top 30s because outside of that top 100 overall list, they're fledging that out. But we're super happy to be here with you live on YouTube every single Monday. And of course, if you're listening back to this, you're on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'll go over our headlines. We'll go over risers and fallers, some farm features through the AL Central, a special interview brought to you by our very own Jacob Smedley. We've got about 7 minutes from that, and our last low A title team, meaning it's our last title team in general from this series. I'm Cory Sparks. Sam Strash, I'll kick it to you first, Mr. Brewers fan. Freddie's out the door and onto the Big Apple, huh?
That he is, and I'll be quite honest with you guys. This is probably the best return we've gotten combined between the Josh Hader move, the Corbin Burns move, and the Devin Williams move now with Freddy Peralta. It's not every day that you get 2 top 100 prospects, including one that was, at the time, he was the number 30 overall prospect prior to the 2026 top 100 being released in Jet Williams. At first, I was not a fan. I'll be completely honest with you. At first, I didn't really like that return, just point blank period. I thought, Jet Williams being another shortstop, I just did a farm feature on the Brewers. Their top 3 prospects are all amazing shortstops. Why add a 4th? Turns out the organization is viewing him as more of an outfielder and not a shortstop. So I'm all right with that because the defense is all right, but he reminds me of Jose Altuve. That comparison's been made a lot lately. He reminds me of that. I don't mind Jet Williams. The bat speed's a little slow. It's a tick slow, but that's something that can definitely be improved on. Brandon Sproat. It took me watching one changeup from Brandon Sproat for me to be on board with that. That guy is filthy. There's no other way to describe him. I like the return now, right? But when it comes to the trade that happened the very next day, Mackenzie Gore, I feel like when you're on the end of receiving 5 prospects in a 5-1 trade, that automatically trumps whatever the Brewers got.
Yeah, you've got quantity there. The Rangers don't have an amazing farm, but you did essentially gut whatever they had left over. Jacob, I'll pitch it over to you as someone who I think did the first video of this channel on Brandon Sproat. You brought him to a lot of people's radars far before this trade was even a possibility, and there were rumblings that Freddie could go anywhere. Your initial reaction, as it looks like Sam's kind of evolved a little bit. Sam, I'm proud of you because you were very upset the night of, but I can tell the more you've dove into this, you're starting to realize, all right, we got 2 top 5s out of a pretty damn good farm system in its own right in the Mets. It's not the best, but it's up there. Jacob, what was your initial reaction to seeing Gore fly one way and Peralta fly the other?
Yeah, I think starting with Peralta, I think looking at that, of course, look at Peralta for these prospects first, and then, they included Tobias Myers in there as well, who the Brewers have, used in a bullpen starting role. So, but looking at the return, Jet Williams, utilizing him in a few different ways, I think that's important. I think, something that, Cory mentioned off camera, kind of having him in that Brewers way. I think the Brewers way is real. In what they can do with him at the top of the lineup, bottom of the lineup, contact, flipping the lineup over defensively, as Sam mentioned. But Sproat, as you mentioned, he's a guy that really jumped on the scene, rose through the minors quickly, struggled the past few years, kind of taking that adjustment, taking that next step from AAA to the bigs. It really has to figure out that fastball, getting out big league hitters with the fastball. It is high velocity, but got to work on some movement with that. But yeah, that change changeup is for real. And I think, getting in with that Brewers pitching lab is going to do wonders for him with the way that they've been able to utilize guys' fastballs, get more RPMs, get more movement. So, yeah, I think the sky's the limit for Sproat and what the Brewers system has been able to do with him.
Yeah, and I think all three of us are in the same vein of thinking with the Milwaukee end of things. It's funny, right? We threw a couple shorts and also a graphic up on our social media channels. We're reading the comments, guys. Oh, Brewers got fleeced. Brewers got fleeced. You just gave up Freddy for some minor leaguers. That's fine. Freddy had 1 year of control left, and let's all be honest here. Before this lockout likely happens, or at least conversation happens of establishing a hard salary cap and possibly a salary floor, the Brewers were not affording Freddy Peralta. So they didn't just trade Freddy Peralta and Tobias Myers. They traded a year of Freddy Peralta for 6 years of control with Jet Williams and 6 years of control with newly debuted Brandon Sproat, who everyone else is also calling out. Oh, the ERAs in the fours, such a small sample size. You have to look at the tools that this guy has. It's a 6-pitch mix. The changeup is 60 grade. The fastball, when he gets really excited, goes up to the triple digits. Those are things that you can harness. And I've said this before, I'll say it again in different conversations. You could not have a better destination for a guy with Brandon Sproat's tools, a lot of good ones, and his aspirations. His big point of improvement would be to just limit the walks a little bit. And it's not even that bad. In college, he fluttered around a 10% walk rate. For Gore, it's a lot. I don't want to say a lot of nothing, but it's definitely not the quality that the Brewers got from the Mets in their prospect return. I'm curious to see how it goes. I feel like people have been throwing the word potential around Mackenzie Gore for the last few years, and we're still waiting to see it fully come to fruition. We're going to find out. That one, I think, is a little closer. I think if Jet Williams is what he's supposed to be, which is a bona fide Brewer, a below-average height guy who can run his butt off, and Pat Murphy's already making jokes about him. And let's talk about that, too. Pat Murphy's not afraid to say when he's upset with administration. He did it last year in May when the Brewers were sub 500. He's making jokes about getting Jet Williams, smiling at the awards ceremony. I think he's happy, if you can read body language, with what he got, considering the fact they weren't going to have Freddie anyway. So I think the Brewers long-term are in a really optimal spot. They already had the best farm in baseball. It only got better. Sproat riding in there right at 100th. It's not going to matter. I thought that was way too low. He's going to graduate soon anyway. The Rangers, that's one where we're going to have to see, because I didn't think they were in a position to ship off a ton of prospects, considering I didn't see a ton of value there. Now they're really, really gutted. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't think it's out of the stretch of the imagination to say that Sproat in a couple of years is straight up beating Freddy Peralta. We'll see what happens over there in New York.
No, that's definitely not out of the question to suggest that. With the way Milwaukee develops their pitching, right? It's almost like, a few years ago, people would talk about don't trade with the Rays. Do not, under any circumstance, trade with the Tampa Bay Rays. They will make you regret whoever you give them. Likewise, don't give the Brewers any pitching. They will greatly make you regret giving them any pitching. Brandon Sproat is not going to be an exception here. Like you said, 6-pitch mix, that changeup 60 grade. He is filthy. And his fastball tops out around 100 too. This is a guy who's in a better position now. Granted, he was also he had a couple of years of age when he debuted on Freddy Peralta compared to when Freddy Peralta debuted. But this is a guy who, at this stage in the game right now, is in a better position to debut in 2026 than when Freddy Peralta debuted in 2018. I firmly believe that Brandon Sproat will end up being the 2 to Jacob Mizorowski's 1 if Miz isn't moved to the bullpen come 2028, 2029.
And I think one more aspect to really focus on there, guys, and I'd love to get your feedback on this. If Brandon Woodruff doesn't sign that non-qualifying offer to come back, does this happen? Maybe they hold on to Freddie and then sell him at the deadline as a rental. But because you're getting Woody back, I think that rotation's a little more built out than it otherwise would have been, to where Matt Arnold's willing to say, you know what, fine, take him. Give me your 2 top 5 prospects. I think the return has something to do with it too.
Yeah, Matt Arnold actually alluded to that in an interview not too long ago, right after the trade happened. He alluded to the fact that because Brandon Woodruff accepted the qualifying offer, that made Freddie almost immediately expendable. Right. And this is something that I had talked about with others in the know previously right around when Brandon Woodruff was A, extended the qualifying offer, and B, when he accepted the offer as well. Let's get the best we can from Boston, or let's get the best we can from LA, because he's not going to be a Brewer on opening day 2026. But I don't know if they do hold on to Freddie if Woodruff says no to the QO. I think they still try and move him because look at what Shane Baz got back for Tampa Bay, right? Look at what Tarek Skubal is going to get Detroit if he gets moved this offseason. Why would the Brewers not try and take advantage of that when Freddy Peralta is in a contract year? But it is interesting to see that getting a guy like Brandon Woodruff, the long-term ace of your rotation since he debuted in 2017, to come back means you move what some people view as the true ace of your rotation. The Brewers' rotation is just so deep everywhere. There are about 9 guys on their staff that you could consider for their front 5. Freddie was more than expendable, regardless.
And he was really only the ace for the last 2 years. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I was just going to add to that point. You're bringing up the kind of how the market shaped out in terms of, with Woodruff, with the offer coming back, and then, taking a look at these big market teams. I know you guys we've talked about it in recent weeks, the acceleration of the payroll. Let's get into it a little bit more, rises and fallers, of course, but you've got these teams that are willing to pay multiple top 100 prospects as the Mets are. So taking advantage of that need, that want, the supply and demand curve is there. So yeah, Brewers took advantage of. So I'm with Sam. I think it might have happened either way, especially with how the dominoes with a lot of these big names on the move anyways, really in that week span that we'll get into.
It's such a good return. And you look at someone like Quinn Priester who came in. I mean, you could call him the Sam Darnold of baseball, right? Getting tossed around a little bit, arguably a lost arm. He comes in with a 94-mile-an-hour fastball and ends up having a career year. Sproat's got better tools than him, so we shall see. We shall see, but really excited to see what Sproat and Williams can do. And that's not to say, look, the Mets are going to extend Freddie. I'd be shocked if they don't. You don't do this for 1 year of an ace. However, I do think there's a scenario where both teams pretty much get what they want. The Mets needed to swing big. They felt that way. They did that. The Brewers just extending that competitive window. They're going to go out there and win 92 games again because everyone's saying they can't. And we'll go from there, right? But super excited to see what those two do. Going to stay on the Mets train as we get into risers here for my end of it. I've got Nolan McLean as a riser. More of a long-term whole body of work story here, but he went from essentially a failed two-way player. He was struggling a ton in high A and double A to try and be that next Shohei where he could flex both sides of his arsenal as someone who can throw mid to high 90s and as someone who he was hitting bombs. He was just hitting below the Mendoza line. To now, we fast forward to January 26th, the 2026. He is officially the top pitching prospect in all of baseball. He's hyper-focused on his responsibilities on the mound. Honestly, if he had a slightly larger sample size last year, he's up for possible Rookie of the Year candidacy out of the National League. Really, really cool to see him go from essentially having to split his brain in half to, all right, it's time to focus on being a pitcher and just being one of the most dominant guys in the game right now.
Oh yeah, that breaking ball, absolutely gross, and it's going to keep getting better. For me, I know you guys have been going on the Rangers. I'm going to go on the positive here. Look on the positive of the Mackenzie Gore trade. You get straight away 5 prospects. Understand that. I mean, they're really not a lot more there at this point, but just looking at it from the roster building, there's still some holes there, but making the trade for Mackenzie Gore, bolstering up that rotation along with Jacob deGrom, Jack Leiter, Kumar Rocker as well. I mean, that division is up for grabs. I know the Mariners, had that run in the playoffs last year. They got Naylor re-signed. They still have some questions, especially with Eugenio Suarez out there. The Astros, what are they going to do with Framber Valdez? They're in that middle ground with some younger guys coming up. The A's, we've talked about them previously. They're exciting, but they still have some question marks on the pitching. Their offense, they're going to score some runs. So, and well, the Angels are the Angels. But I mean, this team is not waiting around. They've made some moves. They brought in Brandon Nimmo earlier this offseason, kind of got Simeon out of there, bringing in Mackenzie Gore. I think they still could be in the market for a Suarez, Eugenio Suarez, if they wanted to add a middle of the lineup bat. I think that's what they're really missing behind a guy like Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, Nimmo at the top of the lineup, Marcel Ozuna, another name, can just plug in there at DH and hit you 20 to 30 bombs. So yeah, I'm looking at the positive for the Rangers. Guys, I know, again, the prospects, yeah, those, especially a recent draft choice like Avin Fien, but, looking at them, they're going for it. They're going for it in that bundled AL West.
I respect it.
I'm not gonna go straight to my faller. I'm gonna briefly mention my riser, and then I have some stuff to counter.
Yep.
Right. Aiden Miller, he's my riser. Shortstop prospect with the Phillies. He was baseball's 61st overall prospect in 2024, the year after he was drafted. Then went to 32 in 2025, and now to start 2026, he is the 23rd prospect in all of baseball in a top 100 that is completely littered with shortstops. I think that if this top 100 wasn't just filled with middle infield talent, Aiden Miller would probably crack minimum the top 15, and I'd argue he'd probably be 8, 9, or 10 in this top 100. This is the true definition of a riser. He's also joining the top 10 shortstop prospects to begin 2026 at number 9, which, to my point, just goes to show that this top 100 is completely loaded to the brim with potential all-star talent in the next 3 to 5 years at the shortstop position. He got his first taste of AAA baseball with 8 games at AAA Lehigh Valley this past year. And in 2025, despite his 50-grade speed, he had 14 homers and 59 stolen bases. Again, 5-9 stolen bases for Aiden Miller. When he really, Jake, if you want to back me up on this here, he's never really been known as much of a speed threat, has he?
Yeah, he's really developed that over the last few years. I mean, it really, the biggest thing for him is that patience and eye at the plate. But yeah, that speed has really come along lately, really in the last year or so.
And in that first taste of AAA, again, he had 8 games this year at Lehigh Valley. His slash line was 333, 514, 519. So that's a 1033 OPS in those 8 games. 2 doubles and a homer, 9 walks as well. So the plate discipline is there. He had 7 strikeouts, sure, but 9 walks. I'm far more impressed with that than I am taken aback by those 7 Ks. And he also had 7 stolen bases in those 8 games at AAA. He's entering his age 21-22 season, already offered a non-roster spring training invite again like he was last year. If he turns up at AAA and guys like Otto Kemp and Edmundo Sosa are struggling come June, July, I think I can see him debuting this season. Or is he trade bait for a major name? I know the Phillies could really use another big bopper in the outfield. I know they just brought back Kyle Schwarber, but he's not an outfielder anymore. He's a full-time DH. Nick Castellanos has an opt-out after this year, I believe, or is it a mutual?
I believe it's an opt-out after this year. I think, again, there's a lot of rumors, but they've really made it clear that if they're not going to trade him, they're probably going to cut him and eat money, is from what I've seen. So I don't even know if he'll be on the opening day roster, to be completely honest with you guys, either.
So to my point, they could really use an outfielder.
Yeah.
And hear me out on this, right? If Miller is really the real deal like I'm expecting him to be, if Atlanta struggles next season again or in 2 seasons, is Ronald Acuna Jr. available? If Houston struggles, does Yordan Alvarez become available as he gets close to contract time? I mean, Jarren Duran in the next couple of years, O'Neal Cruz. If Pittsburgh isn't as good as I am personally hyping them up to be, is O'Neal Cruz available? And these are some guys that I could see. Yes, Ronald Acuna Jr., that's trading between rivals. You just don't see that. But for a guy like Aiden Miller to headline that, for a team that hasn't had an uber-talented shortstop in a while, and I could see Aiden Miller being that 5-tool guy they've been missing for a long time, the sky's the limit here for what Aiden Miller could headline in terms of getting back some big-name talent for the Phillies.
Man, let that be the thing we time mark here at like 19 minutes into this episode. You're calling some big shots. I could see one of those landing, especially if Aiden Miller ends up holding as much value to these other teams who are watching him maybe a little close as you and Jacob have been. But that That would be something. I'll let you snake right into fallers here, and you guys can go to fisticuffs.
It would be interesting to see that. Yeah, my faller is going to counter Jake's riser here. I'm going to tie back into the Mackenzie Gore trade. I don't know if Texas is seriously a contender right now. I really don't. I feel like the 2023 team kind of needs to be studied in a controlled lab environment, because how do you go from being the definition of mid for the last couple of years to going the distance in 2023 to going right back to mid? And guys it's not even like injuries are happening anymore. Jacob deGrom just had his first fully healthy season since I don't know when, and he dominated too, arguably. So I don't know what the Rangers are trying to build off of here, right? They're down to just one top 100 prospect after that trade, with Sebastian Walcott at number 7. As talented as he is, none of their top 30 hitting prospects are in AAA yet, which Walcott makes sense, though, considering he's still just 19. But he's at AA. The numbers aren't spectacular, eye-popping, earth-shattering numbers, so it makes sense that he's still in AA. But you don't have any MLB-ready hitters at your AAA level right now. And not to mention that the current offense, granted, Jacob, like you said, they're probably in the market for at least one bat going forward before we get to spring training. The offense right now just isn't that good. Unless Corey Seager goes back to 2023 Corey Seager, which he very well could. I could see it. He's 32 years old towards the end of the peak of his career. If that doesn't happen, you're relying on Jake Berger and Jock Peterson, who combined for .9 WAR last year, to bounce back in major ways, and I just don't see it happening. And in this trade, you bolstered an already terrific rotation, but at the same time, are you going to want to extend Mackenzie Gore? Because 17 of your top 30 prospects are pitchers, and 11 of them are starters. So I just don't see I truly don't see what the positive is of shipping off 5 dudes to Washington for a guy you might only have for about 2 seasons.
So I'm closer to that, and then I'll let you go, Jacob, in that I thought, if anything, they would do the opposite of this. You take a Seager, Langford's too young, I wouldn't touch him. But you take one of your cornerstones on offense, and you ship, because you have that surplus of pitching talent, you could do that in the rotation too, and you ship them off 4 prospects because you are so short on them. I literally thought I read the trade backwards when this came out, that they went out, got the big star, and shipped off what was left of their farm. Very similar to Arizona, by the way, who they played in the World Series. Teams that were right around that 75, 80 win mark for a while, just treading water, had a meteoric rise, and then crashed back down to square one, and they've just been there. So, Jacob, you've got every right to defend yourself. I'm about as confused as Sam, because I don't know that the Rangers were a Mackenzie Gore away from being a true contender in the AL.
Yeah, it's like that meme. What are they building in there? What are they building?
Exactly.
Down
What does he know?
What do they know? What does Chris Young and company know there in Texas? Yeah, I'm just looking at it from a macro, I guess, big league, just the buying aspect, I guess, liking them buy, maybe for buyers' sake, I guess. Yeah, I said you can check the video kind of on the trade breakdown. I think the Nationals won the trade, especially how Gore has performed in the second half, how he is, hasn't really developed his longevity through 162. So yeah, and the prospect thought, it is what it is, but some of these guys, could turn a corner in that national system. So yeah, I just like it again from the buyer point of view. I like it kind of in that division, which some years can be just quite a toss-up if one team gets hot. But yeah, they got a lot of aging guys, and that youth really could have helped them. It might just turn into a kind of a St. Louis Cardinals situation where they have a lot of aging guys coming out, and like you said, Cory, it might turn into a Nolan Arenado where they're gonna have to eat money and dump a guy. So we'll see. I like the mindset of buying and picking a direction, not just kind of middling around, and at least, hey, we're gonna go for it, AJ Preller style. The farm system doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're just gonna go for it.
Before we keep going, I do agree with the not prospect hugging here, right? I've talked about it. I've used that term the last couple of lives that I've been a part of, that at the end of the day, you don't know what these guys are until they get there, right? And some of them might never get there. I challenge you, the viewer, the listener, to go to MLB.com's website and just backtrack through the last 10 to 15 years of top 100s. Tell me how many of those guys actually turned into potential Hall of Fame talents, right? A lot of them don't. A lot of them don't even debut. So I agree with the not prospect hugging. It's just like we've been saying, the Rangers are a pretty old team. I just don't know if Mackenzie Gore is the one piece they need to go back and defend their 2023 title. I just don't see it.
So here's the other thing too, and I'll side with Jacob on this at least, where the division's relatively wide open, and you kind of think, are they a Mackenzie Gore away from making a run for a title? Is it really just a sport where all you have to do is get in? That's what they did in 2023. All they had to do was get in.
It worked.
And one ticket and a dream, and they just ran with it. So I guess if there is a team out there to have that philosophy, I'll even say if there's two, it'd be the Diamondbacks or the Rangers, the two teams that have done it relatively recently. I would even cut the Nationals some slack because that's essentially what they did in half a year in 2019, where it's a team that nobody had on their radar. Everybody was counting out. They got hot for a few weeks, snuck into the wild card picture, didn't stop rising. Next thing you know, they're raising the Commissioner's Trophy. So if there is a team to have that philosophy of, why not? We'll throw some prospects at a guy. I think if we can just get in, we can go and compete. I think the Rangers, in lieu of recent events, they have a right to feel that way. And for my faller, I'm going to go with the Houston Astros. We'll stay in the great state of Texas and talk about their farm. The 2026 top 100 prospects list comes out. Not shocking. They've got one. He's Bryce Matthews, and he's coming in at number 93. They've got 0 top 90 prospects. So I know they've got a couple World Series trophies over the course of the last decade plus now. The Astros farm is looking rough right now, and they're still contending atop the AL. They're still a ball club that can win 85, 90, 95 games. My issue with the lack of farm is when they get down to 85, 83, 82, 80 wins. You can't do the thing where you get a ton of prospects together and make another charge. You're going to have to pick off of your current big league core and deload and go the other way, unless you want to play the Texas Rangers game, which, again, they have every right to, and continue to try and preserve that window, stay above 80 wins, just get yourself in that range. I think the Astros are in a real tough spot where if they drop 8 to 10 wins off what they have been at the last couple of years, they're going to have to make some pretty big decisions on which guy they pawn off for the prospect haul that they don't currently have.
They're going to make a very interesting farm feature in a couple weeks here.
Yeah.
They are. No disrespect to any of their top 30 from 2025, but a lot of them sound like MLB The Show random name generator players.
You've simmed 3 seasons ahead, right?
Yeah, maybe more than that. You know, that's what they sound like right now. And I'm sure there's a few hidden gems in there who are going to turn some heads come 2027, 2028. But the current picture right now is very bleak for a team that was once at the top of the baseball world in this decade.
Totally fair.
Yeah, maybe the AL West just turning into the we'll reload somehow, just throw a bunch of prospects at someone else and see what happens. For me, it's long-term contracts, no trade clauses. With all of these moves, we've now seen it consecutive off seasons where the power of the players has really taken shape in free agency. Bregman last season with the Red Sox, kind of with opt-outs, with that flexibility. Bichette, Tucker now with backloaded contracts with opt-outs after multiple years, and teams are getting stuck, with my team, the Phillies, with the Bichette situation where they didn't want to give him an opt-out with the 7 years. The Mets kind of bring in that higher AAV, that yearly opt-out, and the Dodgers and the Mets, they're willing to give those flexibilities, give those high AAVs and manipulate it. So I know you guys discussed Tucker the past few weeks with Diaz and what the Dodgers are just building with this super team that continues to evolve and add. But I think the days of Harper and Machado and, of course, Ohtani with the long deal with the Dodgers, those are getting few and far between. It's more about the contracts. It's more about the opt-outs, the no trade clauses in fewer years. So it's that longevity in the contract is getting shorter and shorter. So, and teams that aren't ready to pivot, are going to be stuck behind. And yeah, it's going to be interesting with potential deadline, with a potential lockout, with how these players are going to kind of shape how teams spend money.
I think some teams are
You
getting
know
like,
what?
oh yeah, go ahead.
No, you can take it, Corey. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think some teams are getting a little gun shy based off of some of those past examples, too. My mind immediately went to the Albert Pujols deal, where all of a sudden, in about 3-4 seasons, you realized, oh, this thing is not working out. It's not going to pay for itself. We are long-term committed to someone unless another team wants to take over this contract. Oh, no, he's getting older. It's snowballing. No one wants this guy. We're broke. So I don't know if that's the one domino that broke everyone and made them decide they're not going to commit long-term. But that's a repercussion and a risk that you have. You want to commit to someone for 10 years, that's fine. But you're going to be there for the good, the bad, the ugly. Insert Kyle Tucker deals where teams find someone approaching the age of 30 and they say, we want you for your prime. We're going to pay you your money. We're actually going to juice the numbers a little bit AAV-wise, like Jacob said. And what happens after that? That's somebody else's problem.
You know, you took most of the words right out of my mouth there, right? Like teams are looking at what these long-term deals have meant for other teams in the past and are trying to stay away from that. Look at Mike Trout. 14 years, right? Look at that. That's not even more so the Angels being stuck in, budget purgatory because of Mike Trout, because his deal in hindsight is actually a pretty fair deal. Right? Compared to what Ohtani got, compared to what Vladdy just got, compared to what Kyle Tucker just got. It looks like a pretty fair deal for a guy who was like just beyond his peak and was still going to have a few years of peak ball left and then ride into the sunset the rest of the way. The league, though, from a player perspective, I think what's happening, I have no statistical stuff to back this up other than years in AAV and totals. But I think athletes are looking at what's happening in the NBA and seeing those lucrative contracts and seeing that they aren't tied down to a specific area for years to a decade and saying, I want some of that. Why is that not in my sport? You see it happening in the NFL too. I mean, it's the NFL. When's the last time you saw a mega length contract? I can't even name one. Right? Like even the Aaron Rodgers extensions were all 4 years, 5 years. Rookie contracts are 4 years for a reason. Then guys go and sign a 4-year deal again. Granted, NFL careers aren't as long, but NBA careers are really long. And LeBron James, his deal with the Lakers initially was what, a 4-year deal with some opt-outs? Right? And he just keeps renewing that and going. They want to have a short-term plan to try and win and maximize the amount of capital they can bring in, and then go do the same thing in another market, and then do the same thing in another market. It's turning into the NBA, and I think, as I've been talking about this just now, I think the league needs to start noticing this before they do new CBA negotiations and put that on the table. Do you want to become more like this league, or do you want to be your own unique product? That's going to be a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, the basketball comp's a really good one because even the most locked up contracts, you think of Damian Lillard with the Bucks, there's jailbreak options out of it. The wave and stretch, the country learned what that was. There's always a way out of it in the NBA, in the NFL, and then you just have guys like Mike Trout and Albert Pujols, for lack of a better term, rotting on teams. They're not happy. The agent's probably pretty happy, and the player's probably content with the money that they're making, but the team's not having a whole lot of fun. And the player doesn't get to win a whole lot of baseball games because they are the financial burden of said team. So NBA comp is a really, really strong one. All right, got a little surprise for you, Jacob. Could you actually give a quick preview of your interview? And then we're going to kick it for about 6.5 minutes here. You and your buddy Michael sat down and talked. A lot of Orioles. I don't want to spoil too much. I'll let you have the floor here.
Yeah, of course. I got to talk with the broadcaster, Michael Marcantonini, who broadcasted for the past few years for the Aberdeen Ironbirds, the single-A affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles. So he got to see up close and personal a lot of these guys that are in the majors right now, Adley Rutschman, Colton Cowser, Samuel Basayo. So it was great to talk with him about that. He also was a part of the Arizona Fall League for the past few seasons as well. We've talked about that with some of these prospects prospects getting to play. He shared a little bit about that. So yeah, take a listen. Got to share some information about the Orioles core.
Awesome. Awesome. Cliff Notes, here is that interview right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll get right into it. We'll first start with the Baltimore Orioles. You've seen some of the top players in the system come through over the past few years, from Colton Cowser, Kobe Mayo, Adley Rutschman. You got to see these guys up close and personal in Aberdeen. Take me through the locker room. What was that like to see these guys' prep on a day-to-day basis?
It was pretty cool. One thing that I picked up on pretty early during my time with the Ironbirds and the Orioles organization was that they pay so much attention to detail. The routine before a game is so regimented. They do not waste time. Like if there's time in the day to get work in, they're going to do it. Now, of course, there's days where guys need rest. But one thing that I saw from the start of my time there was that once they got to the ballpark, everything was laid out for these guys where, from this time to this time, it's going to be early work in the cage or on the field if some guys want to hit there. Guys are getting in pregame defense type of stuff. There'd be pitcher meetings, pitcher catcher meetings, outfield meetings, infield meetings, meetings with the mental health skills coach, meetings with roving instructors throughout the organization. So it was really cool to see these guys just continuously doing something to help improve themselves as a baseball player and really as a person. So that's something that I picked up on from really everybody in the organization, players, coaches, instructors, whoever, front office. So because of that, I wasn't surprised at what I saw happen out on the field every night, where I was seeing the pregame prep work that nobody else sees, and then I was seeing it really come to fruition out on the field. There's a reason that guys flew through Aberdeen to get up to Double-A, Bowie, now Chesapeake, and then of course up to Triple-A Norfolk in the big leagues. Like that system has been stacked for years, and it's no surprise that a lot of those guys have had success at higher levels, especially at the big league level.
And going right from there, one of the names in that group, Samuel Basallo, making his debut in the big, also got to see him making a stop there in 2023. What kind of stood out about him, and kind of take me through his journey through Aberdeen up to the bigs?
Yeah, I mean Samuel Basallo, the what he did during his quick stint in Aberdeen, he was in Aberdeen 4, maybe 5 weeks. It was so impressive. Like the final week of that 2023 season, like I had never seen anything like that at any level of the minor leagues. I mean, he was just destroying opposing pitching. If you threw it in the zone, it was getting clobbered. Double to the gap, home run, way over the wall. Like, we don't have to worry about wall scrapers with this guy. Like if it was gone, you knew it was gone. So what was impressive about Basayo is the approach at such a young age. Like he'd be up in the batter's box and it almost looked like he was a big leaguer. Like there were some guys that fooled him, or some certain pitches that maybe he took an ugly swing on. His first week with the Ironbirds was a little rough. He was really jumpy at the plate, and it was something that I noticed. I'm like, this guy's in front of everything, hitting dribblers out to second, off the end of the bat back to the pitcher. Like he wanted to do damage from the start, but really after that first week, he just absolutely took off. Like it didn't take him long at all to really lock in and make an adjustment to that next level. And he was doing this as a teenager, like mind you, like one of the youngest, if not the youngest player in the league at that point. And comes up towards the end of that 2023 season. And as soon as he locked in, like everything off his bat was barreled up. It was just solid contact everywhere, even the outs. And it was so impressive because he's kind of a really unassuming presence. Like he's not a guy who's going to show like a ton of emotion out on the field. He's going to show some, and we've seen that at the big league level this past year with the Orioles. But he's really even keel, and I was really impressed because he's that way at such a young age. Like pretty much every stop in the minor leagues, he was the youngest player at every stop, and it was cool to just see him take it in stride, kind of push off all the media and fan hype, and know that it was happening, but not let it distract him. And just a really cool, down to earth kid, and really impressed to see what he's doing at the big league level now.
Gotcha. And staying right on the subject with Basallo, of course, a lot of discussion with O's fans and baseball fans. What are they going to do with Basallo, Rutschman, adding in Pete Alonso? Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I know, of course, coming up as a catcher, Rutschman is there as well. Kind of how do you think that the Orioles are going to kind of manage that?
Yeah, I think it's going to give them some more options now. Like before, without Pete Alonso in that lineup, I mean, there's 40 plus home runs that you're going to get now that you didn't have before. And because Pete's slotted in at first base and he's going to play there every day, or at least he's going to be in the lineup, he's going to have some days where he DHs. But it takes the pressure off so many of these young hitters. And that lineup is so deep. And the fact that you have a guy also like Adley Rutschman, who's an established big league catcher behind the dish, it takes a lot of the pressure off Basayo in so many ways. Like he can kind of ease into his first full big league season, or at least we expect a full big league season, where he's going to get some reps behind the dish. He's going to be in the lineup. He'll maybe get some reps over at first base to spell Alonso. But this just allows him to settle in and just go be Sam Basayo. Like you don't have to hit fourth for us and hit 300 with 30 plus bombs. Just develop. You're still a young 20, 21 years old, whatever he is now. Just kind of see how things work at this level. And the fact that they've got a veteran piece like Alonso, Taylor Ward in the outfield, he's going to see these veteran professional hitters go about their craft every day. And the one thing that I've said from the start with Basayo since I saw him play in Aberdeen back in 2023 was like, it doesn't matter what position he plays. It doesn't matter where you stick him. He's going to hit enough to justify where he is on the diamond, because there's a lot of positions at the big league level. It's like, all right, this guy can't play this position unless he hits. Like let's take first base, for example. Like you're not throwing a guy at first base if he can't be a middle of the order thumper, or at least hit for a high average and or high OPS. But Basayo's a guy who you're never going to have to worry about the defense with him, because his bat is going to outproduce any defensive output you can get. Like that's my view on him. I've always said he's got Yordan Alvarez level pop, and I think we're going to see that over the next couple of years.
All right, awesome interview, Jacob. Great insight, too, into I know the farm system has fallen off a little bit the last couple of years, but when you think top-tier pipeline talent, you're thinking Jackson Holliday, you're thinking Samuel Basayo, you're thinking of what the Orioles grew up into their major league system. Awesome insight from Michael, too. It's always cool to be able to pick someone's brain who sees that stuff like 130 times a year. So awesome stuff, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's great. Tune in. The full interview will be coming out tomorrow. Should be up right here on Minor League Minutes, so stay tuned for that as well. Super excited about that.
Yeah, good teaser. There's about 20 more minutes where that came from, so he really dives in a lot deeper. That was just more or less of a sneak peek. All right, farm features continue. We're on the back half now, and we are in the AL Central. I'll kick us off here with the Kansas City Royals. You're going to notice two pretty splashy names. The second one, arguably even more well-known than the first. This guy I'm about to mention kind of snuck up on me, but is league ready. And then there's a bit of a drop-off, but these guys all have a very specific role in the future of the Royals, whether it be big league debut coming soon, trade piece, what have you. But we begin with Carter Jensen. Top two prospects are catchers. Very, very unique. A lot of flexibility for what they could do in the future. Salvi Perez is 35 years old and has 2 years left on his contract. He could be done. So all things to remember before we dive into Carter Jensen. Really cool hometown kid, makes it big in his home city storyline here. He's from Kansas City, was picked in the third round of the 2021 MLB draft by that team he grew up around, and his power is what has not only earned him a third-round draft pick selection, but the promotion each and every level of the way. 60-grade power, that might even be skimping him a little bit. 61 long balls across 484 games of minor league baseball. A lot of wall balls, a lot of doubles. The critique with him is a unique one. It's actually to be more aggressive early in counts. Usually in prospects that have a lot of power, it's, hey, stop swinging at everything. If you have good plate discipline, you're going to get called up. He already got called up. He actually had a brief stint in the majors. He was the second fiddle to Salvi Perez for the back end of last year. The critique with Carter Jensen is don't go down 1-2. Don't go down 1-2 when strike two is a fastball right down the middle, or strike one's a fastball right down the middle. They want him to be a little less passive. I mean, that is nitpicking, guys. He's not biting on breaking balls out of the zone. He has really astute plate discipline. It's just be a little more aggressive early on. And the guy after him, who was also a catching prospect, pretty much has the opposite profile. It's Blake Mitchell. This is the first-round draft pick from a couple of years ago. Second prospect in this pipeline, playing the exact same position, completely different type of catching profile. 70-grade arm is his strength. Makes sense considering he used to be an amateur pitcher a couple of years ago and threw 97 off the bump. So he's got the cannon. Just needs to learn to harness that because in 2024 at least, he only caught 14.4% of attempted base stealers. Remarkable at getting down on one knee, stretching the zone. The framing is awesome. He's a defense-first catcher. He needs to work on his approach at the plate. He's yet to record a season after 3 tries now of a batting average of above 232. Still in high Quad Cities with the River Bandits as of last year, so his ETA sits at 2027, which seems right to me. I want to open up the floor to this for just a second because, like Sam, for example, the Brewers, their top couple of prospects are shortstops, but you can at least mold those. Outside of moving your catcher to first base, you can't do a whole lot with having Blake Mitchell and Carter Jensen playing the same position unless we're waiting for Salvi to run out the clock the next couple of years. What's your perspective on seeing 2 catchers headline the prospect pipeline here?
Having 2 good catchers is like having 2 good quarterbacks, to be quite honest with you.
Yep.
People don't quite understand the field general that is the catching position in Major League Baseball. So having 2 of the top catching prospects in the game, or 2 of the better ones at least, in your farm system is a good problem to have, right? They aren't as movable, though, around the diamond, like you mentioned. But there have been cases where we've seen catchers turn into outfielders and vice versa because of their arms. Catchers also, I mean, the leg strength is just ridiculous. That just goes without saying, right? From being able to be down in that position for pitchers throw 80 to 100 pitches a game. The catcher's got to catch all of them, and he's got to get down and up and down and up and down and up, and then still be spring loaded to can someone at second base when they're trying to steal on them. So catchers are some of the better athletes in professional baseball. We could see a guy like Blake Mitchell, because I think Carter Jensen's the more pro-ready of the 2. We could see a guy like Blake Mitchell get a position change to maybe even the outfield. The speed is something that would need to be looked at a little bit with him, something that would need to be worked on. So he could be like a first baseman or third baseman too, especially with the defense being as solid as it is. I think, having a guy, your number 2 prospect being a catcher makes him the malleable one, but it is a good problem to have, having 2 of your top prospects, or in this case, your 2 top prospects being catchers.
I've brought up Kyle Schwarber before too, Jacob, that there's a benefit of having the amazing bat out there, whether they're going to be a DH or you toss them in left field. Mitchell's got an awesome
I'll give
arm.
you an even better one. Bryce Harper was a catcher too.
Yeah,
Bryce Harper was also a catcher. So like I said, we've seen it before. It could happen here again.
Yeah, so Philly knows a thing or two about that.
Yeah, I think something too, as Sam brought up the most athletic position in baseball, and adding on to it, catchers these days have to do so much more, I think, than catchers even 10 years ago, with the framing, with the arm strength, with the power and contact at the plate. So, I mean, you see a lot of these teams that backup catcher is a great framer, a great defensive guy, or, a guy that, can quick come in, pitch hit, get you a slap single. And then, so I think that's also something in play. I think that, a position change might be coming, but, there's different skill sets that, of course, teams are carrying 2 catchers, but there's so many more skill sets, I think, in today's game as a catcher than, you saw with Yadier Molina, Salvi Perez when he was coming up, Buster Posey, where, you got those all-around catchers. Backup catcher can come in, once every 7th day. Now you have so many different more skill sets, I think, that you have to worry about.
Well, and I guess this didn't matter for the American League as much as it does for the National League, but with the Universal DH, if you really like Carter Jensen's bat, but you cannot imagine not having Blake Mitchell back there catching balls and strikes for you, there's a world where they both play 120 games in some capacity, right? So there can be room for both of them. Number 3 is Sean Gamble. We moved to the outfield/second baseman position. This is a project, 2029 ETA. This is the 2025 first-round pick. Gamble was picked 23rd overall. He has an interesting story. He used to go to Florida with his family, go down south for the summer. He would go to tennis and baseball camps. It was listed in that order. Tennis being the primary, would also play baseball, found some translatable skills there. IMG's director of baseball operations said, wait a minute. I think we should keep you here for longer than just the camp. What are your thoughts on being a full-time athlete? This is back when Gamble was 13, 14 years old before he got into high school. Sure enough, he gets there full-time, goes there for all 4 years. His strength, Smooth swing from the left side. That's been apparent for years with an ability to do damage at all fields. Physical strength is still a work in progress, but he doesn't reach the age of 20 until this upcoming month. So you've got a lot of time to build out that frame, become a stronger prospect. Another note, it's nothing crazy, but we really don't know where this guy is going to be on defense. Kansas City announced him as an outfielder on draft day. He has some nice range and versatility in the dirt, too. This summer, we're going to be able to see him in pro baseball for the first time, and because of that, he hasn't really had any time to try that out in the Royals system. They're going to have plenty of time to experiment with him, thus the ETA of 2029. Another 2029er, Josh Hammond, playing the hot corner, another unique story. He was scouted for a while into college as a two-way prospect. He was drawing comparisons to, we brought him up before, Nolan McLean, fellow North Carolina prep product, who took his two-way talents into the minor leagues before specializing as one of the better pitchers in today's game. This guy mainly focused on pitching with Team USA's 18U team last summer, but he wanted to play every day. He said, get this every fourth, every fifth day crap out of here. I want to swing the bat. Ended up being so good on offense and so good out in the field that they switched him, and he got drafted as a third baseman. The arm strength from being a pitcher is extremely translatable. You can see it every time he fires the ball across the diamond from third to first. What he's working on, making better swing decisions now that he's switched to being a full-time hitter and fielder. We kind of talked about that world with Nolan McLean, where you got to switch from having half the brain in one area and half the brain to the other. Well, now Hammond is a full-time hitter, at least for the foreseeable future. Not worried about that. Number 5, rounding it out, Yandel Ricardo, a shortstop, 2029 ETA. One of the better base stealers in the lower levels of minor league ball right now. He had 45 stolen bags in 128 games across rookie ball and single-A Columbus with the Fireflies. In a limited DSL stint, held his strikeout rate below average to around 17%. Get below that 21-22% range, you're in pretty good shape. But again, he's still got to elevate like 3-4 times. Scouted as having a lot of power, but he's been stronger from the left side. We'll see if he remains as a true switch hitter. I'll quickly do diamond in the rough here and then toss it back to you guys. Their number 10 prospect, Drew Beam, got plenty of experience as a 3-year member of the Tennessee Volunteers rotation. They've been churning out good big league prospects for a while now, and he won the Natty with them before the Royals selected him. What I like about him is he excels at what so many young pitching prospects struggle with. He's a pure strike thrower. He's not going to blow you away with the velo, but he posted a sub-4 ERA with the Quad Cities River Bandits, walked just 30 hitters over 131 innings pitched. Forces weak contact, has a high floor, causes a lot of guys to beat the baseball into the ground. I don't know where both of you stand on pitchers like this. I just did a separate video for Seth Lugo and was doing some content on him earlier today, where they go with finesse, they go with pitch selection, but above all else, they are strike throwers. Where do you guys lie between this guy can hit the zone and you're never going to see walk issues, and this guy throws 102 and you're not going to be able to touch any of his stuff if his stuff is on?
Yeah, I think for me, I like a strike thrower, and that's also coming from someone who watched Ranger Suarez with the Phillies for so many years, with what he again just got paid by the Boston Red Sox to essentially do that, throw strikes, get weak contact, and use and excel in the field. So for me, I'm more of a strike thrower. I think though the game is really trending to that velocity, and we talked about Brandon Sproat earlier, having almost really that perfect mix, going to find that perfect mix with that excellent velocity along with some control, which is still kind of coming along. But I think if it's one or the other, if we're picking the two sides of the shoulder, I'm going with a strike thrower, lower velo.
That it would be very biased for me to also say I'm going with the strike thrower, lower velo, because that's exactly what I was when I was playing baseball. I topped out at probably 83 or at 86. I think I reached once, but fastball was consistently low 80s to barely touching the mid 80s. Changeup, I found out how to do the airbender changeup and never looked back. So I've always been more command. I've always been, you have 7 guys behind you. That's always been my mentality, and I'm going to ride with that still, is that at the end of the day, it's not the pitcher versus, like in this case, it's not Drew Beam versus the Minnesota Twins. It is the Kansas City Royals versus the Minnesota Twins. At the end of the day, you are there as the pitcher to make the batter swing the bat, make him want to hit that ball, right? You want to try and force that weak contact. You want to force the ball into the ground. That's what's going to make you a more effective guy, because then you can mix things up and start fanning dudes and start confusing them with the same release point, but you're throwing a changeup versus a fastball. Changeup breaks in on the right-handed hitter, right? So you can really mix things up a lot more as a command and control pitcher than you can as a guy that's just, I'm going to try and blow this ball right by you, see if you can hit it, right? But there's advantages to both. I'm going to ride with the bias here. I'm going to ride with I want the command, I want the control, I want the movement.
Yeah, I think I'm with both of you guys too. I don't, it's not that I just miss 94 miles an hour being considered a heater, and now it's like an average fastball. I think that was a fun time to live in 10 years ago. But I think when you have someone like a Seth Lugo or like a Drew Bream or Edward Cabrera has 5 or 6 pitches going over to Chicago now. Quinn Priester is more of the finesse type. He's not blowing you away with the fastball. If you could command the strike zone, the benefit of that is fastball's off today. Don't worry about it. I got like 4 or 5 other pitches where that came from. If you're just a hard strike throw or a hard fastball thrower like a Peyton Tolley, for example, he's got some pitch arsenal stuff to work on. If that fastball's off, we're in trouble. Don't have a whole lot of other options at the moment. So I'm with you guys there. Quickly for the Royals, and then we'll kick it off with the Cleveland Guardians. Strengths is obviously the top-end catching talent. There's a lot of different things you can do there. Is one of them going to be baited for trading going forward? Or in 2028, when Salvi Perez is gone, possibly retired, is that your platoon where you take advantage of one guy's glove and one guy's power being Jensen, glove being Mitchell? Weakness, no pitchers in the top 5. 2 of the top 3 pitching prospects for this ball club are projected to debut in 2029. Good news for the Royals. Their big league ball club had the 6th best ERA in the league at 3.73. Bad news, if it's not like that this year, there's not a whole lot of in-house talent to call on right now. And that's all I got for the Royals.
All right, picking it up with the Cleveland Guardians, keeping it rolling here in the AL Central. Number 1, big name guy. We're starting off with Travis Bazzana, number 2026 ETA, MLB number 20 in the latest 2026 rankings. Last season was ranked at number 17. 65 grade hit tool, guys. That's where he's going to make his money. It's just amazing bat-to-ball skills, smooth swing from the left side, 60 overall skills across the board, at least 50 grade at every different skill set, running, fielding, power as well. Again, elite bat-to-ball skills mixed with speed at the second base position, and we're gonna dive into some other guys. The theme for the Guardians: guys who can swing the bat, and a team that has developed a lot of guys that can swing the bat. For Bazzana specifically, really stood out in taking that next step from AA to AAA. We've talked about it before on the show, and in that jump for these top prospects, that jump from AA to AAA. He struggled at AAA to end the year, a little over a 200 average, was hovering around 256 in AA. So that's going to be the biggest thing from him this coming year. Start him in AAA, get really a length of time where he can see those guys that are right there in the majors, guys in rehab assignments, stuff like that. This past season, started in rookie ball, a trend we'll see. I'll talk about it with a few other guys. They started in like rookie ball, ACL Guardians for some of these guys to get the season started. Very unique with the Guardians and how they kind of shaped things up. Went right up to Akron, finished 26 games for AAA Columbus. Like I said, batted 243 on the season, but 256 of that came in AA with a 790 OBP. 50 hits out of 74 came in AA, just 24 to end the season with 23 RBIs. Just taking a deeper dive into Bazzana, into those numbers quickly, putting more balls in the air, the power push in AAA, picked it up with the fly ball rate, which was a season high. In AA, it was down, but a career high line drive percentage. So he was trying to get a little pull happy, maybe a little home run happy there in AAA. So maybe looking to even out those numbers here in the coming year and getting back to that success in AA. High swing path, going to be those high fastballs, going to be something he's going to adjust great low ball hitter. That fastball low and in, down and away, can shoot it the other way. So right now, committed to play in Australia. We've talked about it as well in the WBC. I'm very excited to see how he does in a very good pitching pool as well. Pool C against those teams, Japan, South Korea, Chinese Taipei, that have some great pitchers from the Nippon Baseball League, pitchers that are in Major League Baseball. He'll get to see and make those adjustments even before the season has started. He should be in the middle of the infield for the Guardians at some point in 2026. If not early in the season, give him some time, mid-season call-up. A guy that has already been called up, Chase DeLauder, number 2, ETA 2026. Cory made a video about him being a sneaky player to watch in the postseason this past year, made his debut in the postseason in the wild card against the Detroit Tigers. Bat-to-ball skill, again, sound like a broken record with the Guardians. No joke. Getting on base at an incredible rate, made the move to bring him up. 60 grade hit and a 60 grade power. Uses his 6'3" frame to his advantage through the zone. That bat goes through the zone in an instant. Goes right through, makes contact. Back-to-back seasons with at least a 260 average, 341 OBP, 841 OPS, 37 hits, and at least 7 home runs. So number 46 in the prospect rankings. And the big question is going to be where they're going to play him. In left field, in right field. Stephen Kwan is still there amidst the rumors this past season. So I think they're going to keep him in right. Center field, he did show some struggles defensively, especially in that postseason with his defense. I think he's more of a corner guy, can use his length, arm strength there as well. So we'll see. But I think right now you're looking at an outfield. Kwan, Martinez, DeLauder, get you another guy here in a second. That's a pretty good outfield in terms of offense, defense as well. Number 3 is Angel Hanau, the ETA 2026. Francisco Lindor, anyone. That's the first name that comes to mind when you look at Hanau. Switch hitting master of the middle infield, and for the Guardians. I mean, what's the secret sauce here with Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor, Hanau, just an excellent 60 grade hit tool and a good defense over at shortstop. All around game. He's not going to walk a lot. He's a guy, he's a free swinger around the zone. Batted 263 across 2 levels with another guy who was with the ACL Guardians, then right up with AA Akron. 80 hits, 5 multi-hit games, 5 multi-hits in his last 6 games of the season. Has a leg kick, so he continues to find out and exploit velocity. I think that's something pitchers are going to adjust to him, that he's going to have to adjust back, using that leg kick to his advantage. Defensively, played over 630 innings at shortstop, leaving no question. I know that, by the way, this past season in the Dominican Fall League, he was on the All-Star team this past year. So an exciting bat, and shortstop Gabriel Arias is there, a little over 200 batting. I think Hanau could be up there by the end of the season. This is a Cleveland team that loves to call their guys up and make an impact in the season, of course, as mentioned with DeLauder. Number 4, catcher Cooper Ingle with an ETA of 2027, a catching prospect, has a 60 grade hit tool. Continuing with the catchers, this guy with the contact, with what he can bring to the table, up in the zone. Last season, difficult transition from AA to AAA. I think the biggest thing for him went down. Same with the OPS, but incredibly disciplined at the plate. Great hit tool, but the defense, the power, that's still kind of what needs to be desired. He led all minor league catchers in WRC plus, on base percentage, walk to strikeout ratio, and something the Guardians have added, talking about leg kicks. He's got one as well. Could result in a little uptick in homers is for him. So player I'm thinking of for Ingle, John Jaso, a guy that was had those years with great contact. Wasn't a fantastic defender, but I mean, he had some years where he was at the top of the lineup and he was getting on base at a high rate and leading the way at the catcher and ended up being a first base position. So, I think that's an opportunity for him. So defense is really the next step, translatable. Right now, the Guardians have a few guys already there with Hedges, with Naylor. So I think Ingle's a few years away. Number 5, Oh, there's another one. Jason Churio. There's two of them. The meme is real, gentlemen. Jason, the younger brother of Jackson, who you guys both really see on a daily basis. It brings a lot of similar skill sets to Jackson. A little less on the power, though. He's more of a contact slap guy, uses his speed to get on base, recognizes pitchers better than most players at his age, rarely chases out of the zone. Stats from this past year: 237 average, 379 OBP, 286 slugging, 665 OPS with 73 hits and 26 RBIs, 70 walks as well. The biggest question for me: stolen bases went down. He stole 44 bags 2 seasons ago, had just 10 this past year. So, and that slugging is going to be a real question mark for this guy. Of course, has the speed, has the defense. I think he profiles as a great center fielder with what he can bring, covers a lot of ground, contact, but that power that his older brother has on him, with that power that can really drive the baseball. So, yeah, all over the field. Again, speed in center field is going to be huge. So ETA, that 2027, 2028, he's still in high A at this time. Diamond in the rough, Daniel Espino, the number 29 prospect in the Guardian system. Yeah, quite a story for Espino. 2019 was the number 24th overall prospect in the entire game, ahead of guys like Michael Harris, Gunnar Henderson, but just injuries have been brutal for Espino, who really from 2022 to 2025 barely pitched, multiple injuries, knee tendonitis, shoulder surgery, a capsule tear in 2024. Yeah, last year he just started one game. He lasted 2/3 of an inning, gave up 3 runs on 3 hits. I think with the full off season, some great watch in Arizona Fall League. He didn't give up a run in 3 appearances. The fastball, which is topped out at over 100, that slider has incredible break. It's been challenging. It's been an obstacle. Get to a weakness here in a second. He can be a resolution to that weakness if he can get a lot of innings under his belt. He's a wild card for this Guardian system. If he can pick it up where his kind of projections were at, if those injuries can kind of calm him down, reset, I think he can be a big part. And lastly, just to finish up, strengths, hit tool. Talking about those 5 guys, all of the top 5 prospects, at least a 55 grade hit tool or better. Just what are they doing? What's the sauce in Cleveland with these prospects, these different affiliations? You know, I could see a lineup of these guys, everyone batting 260 with at least an 800 OBP. I think this team can have it with a lot of the talent that they have at different positions. Weakness, kind of piggybacking off the Royals, starting pitching, especially MLB ready starting pitching. The Shane Bieber trade last season nailed them. Cal Stefan from the Blue Jays in that trade. Really up and down last season. He's the number 6 prospect right after the guys I just mentioned. Back and forth between single A, double A. Has some good stuff, but is still yet to put it together. And a team that has had guys up and down. Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee has had his struggles here and then. Really doesn't have that frontline guy. That's ready to be called up. Parker Messick got the call up last year. He really played well. Sub-3 ERA, a little bit of a soft tossing lefty. They do have Joey Cantillo as well. Braylon Doherty next up at 8. Strong fastball, curveball, slider, but still in single A, still a little bit ways away. So Guardians, the hit tool is there, but the pitching is still left to be desired, especially with a few guys that got, on that restrictive list. So they got some help. They got their work cut out for them there.
Yeah, they've got mashers, man. I mean, thinking about a reality where they still have J-Ram, DeLauder goes out there, Bazana up possibly by the end of this year, early next year. The quick note I had on them, you brought this up, Jacob, and astutely so. They bring guys up quick. Like, service time manipulation doesn't really exist over there. If you're ready, DeLauder, for example, with the expanded roster in the postseason, you're coming up. They want these guys to get their hacks in the big leagues. And it made me think of something the MLB implemented a couple of years ago. It's the prospect promotion incentive, where you get an extra draft pick if one of your guys that you call up is top 3 in MVP voting in the first couple of years. There's a couple of other ways to kind of get that extra draft pick too. That's just Cleveland's philosophy. Like, this is not one of those teams where they put that rule in place for. That's just how Cleveland operates. Bazana, he kind of had a slow start. I remember watching some of his games with the Captains over in Lake County, thinking, okay, he's hitting 220, he's hitting 230 through 20 games, but you never got worried. And partially because of what you brought up there too, Jacob, I never saw him get frustrated. I'm like, what's going on with this guy? He's just kind of mulling along. Boom, he whacks a ball 420 feet. He's toying with his swing. The launch angle's changing a little bit. He's working on lifting the ball up more. He is using minor league baseball as an experimental ground to better his game. He's not worried about making it. He knows he's going to make it. He was the number 1 overall pick, and he's from Oregon State, where there's something in the water there when it comes to guys who can hit the ball a mile. He is using minor league baseball, not worrying about if he hits 240 or 265 to fine-tune his fundamentals. I'm really excited to see Travis Bazana for years to come.
I agree. That's one of the really unthought of sides of minor league baseball and just minor league sports in general. I mean, that NHL has minor league system. The NBA has the G League. The NFL doesn't really have a minor league system, but if you really want to think about the UFL as their minor leagues, then go for it. It's really more so college football as the minor leagues now. But that's besides the point, right? That a lot of people, I feel like it goes unseen and really unspoken that minor league baseball is that tooling phase. It's like playing a JV sport in high school or college. That is the spot that you go and retool things, that you work on your physical game, you work on the things in your skill set that are currently viewed as undesirable from a professional big league context. And that's what the minor leagues are for, is to work on stuff like that. So that's the Guardians really leverage that and really try and get these guys to perfect their game before they bring them back up to the next spot. And I think part of that, like you alluded to, Jacob, is starting these guys at like the Complex League to start the year, or at low A, or even at rookie ball to start the year, and then immediately bump them up to double A, or immediately bump them up to triple A or high A. And they worked on that stuff for about 8 to 10 games. They built that mind-muscle connection, and now they're going to go try and perform at those higher levels to see if it worked, right? Let's get into our last AL Central team with the Minnesota Twins, a team that completely torched their roster at the 2025 trade deadline. 2 of these guys in the top 5 and my diamond in the rough came over from different trades, 3 unique trades at the trade deadline this past year. I'll be showcasing their end of 2025 top 5 as you guys did with those teams. They have 4 prospects in the preseason top 100 list to begin 2026. I'll provide those rankings as well, starting with Walker Jenkins, an outfielder who's 2026's number 14 overall prospect. He's got 60 grades in hitting, power, and his arm, and 55 in the run and field. This is a potential 5-tool player. He's not quite what Byron Buxton was as a prospect. Remember, Byron Buxton was an alien of a prospect. 70 hit, 60 power, 80 run, 70 arm, 70 field. Like we viewed Byron Buxton. How would the story of Major League Baseball be different if Byron Buxton stayed healthy?
Yeah.
That's a story for another day. But that proves the point here, is that Walker Jenkins could turn into what Byron Buxton was supposed to be if he stays healthy. The bat's close to big league ready for Walker Jenkins. The glove and natural instincts are big league level. He just needs more time at AAA St. Paul before if I were the poll ads, or if I were Minnesota's front office, he needs more time there before I'd be comfortable with him debuting. As bad as the Twins roster might be to start 2026, he needs more time. You can't mess this up here. 2025 numbers in 84 games across 4 different levels of baseball. He slashed 286, 399, 451 with an 850 OPS, 17 doubles, 10 homers, 34 RBIs. He had 50 walks as well in those 84 games, so only 76 strikeouts, so the plate discipline is there. Also had 17 stolen bases. His best level was at AA Wichita, where he had a 913 OPS in 52 games. His projected debut is 2026. I'm going to go 2027. I think he needs another full season in minor league ball. He showed he wasn't ready for AA pitching in 2024. And the same thing happened last year in his 23 games at AAA St. Paul. More time there. He's going to be an opening day starter in 2027. Even though he's not ready yet, though, I'll provide this as a small provision. Even though he's not ready yet, If he performs well at AAA, I could see him being a September call-up simply because the Twins aren't that good this year. But I realistically think that he'll be a debut in 2027. Callan Culpepper at shortstop. He's the number 52 prospect in MLB.com's 2026 preseason list. And this guy's had a meteoric rise from not ranked in the Twins system in 2024 to their number 2 overall to wrap up 2025 and should still be the number 22 to begin the 2026 season. And I'd argue he's the most pro-ready out of the Twins' top 5, and that even includes Emmanuel Rodriguez. I think Callan Culpepper is the most pro-ready out of these top 5. He's 23 years old. He's a bat-first shortstop, which we don't really see anymore, really. I mean, even with guys like Elly De La Cruz and Carlos Correa and so on and so forth, we don't see a ton of bat-first shortstops in the major leagues, nor are some of the best shortstop prospects truly bat first. They've had the glove turn out first, and the bat has come around. Callan Culpepper's the other way around. The bat was there first. And that's the reason why the Twins kind of want to move him to third base or even to the corner outfield spots. His defense at shortstop is average at best, but is outstanding at second base and third base. It's outstanding in the outfield, and it makes sense to move him too, not just because of the defense struggles at short, but because he's position blocked at the big league level by former number 2 prospect in the Twins system, Brooks Lee. He's position blocked there, and he's also kind of position blocked at third, which is why they're thinking about the outfield spots for him. 2025 numbers, 113 games at high A Cedar Rapids, AA Wichita. He had an 844 OPS, 16 doubles, 20 homers, 50 walks, 90 Ks, 25 stolen bases. So this is a 2020 hitter already. He's only going to get better too. The bat continues to improve year after year. Projected debuts 2027. I think this guy's a September call-up this year. I think 2026. I don't expect him to slow down anytime soon, and neither should you. So, because especially if Brooks Lee can't figure it out with the stick at the big league level this year, Culpepper needs minimum 20 games to see if at least he can figure it out, right? They need that bat in the lineup at the shortstop position or somewhere on the infield, and especially if Royce Lewis gets hurt again. There's a common theme here in Minnesota. It's perpetually injured guys. If Royce Lewis gets hurt, Callan Culpepper at third. They don't really have a third base prospect that's a safety valve option at the AAA or AA level. We'll get into that in a little bit. Eduardo Tate at catcher. He's their number 3 prospect. 2026 is number 65. He was acquired at the 2025 MLB trade deadline in the Yoan Duran trade with Philadelphia. He's marketed as a bat-first catcher with a work-in-progress defensive game, according to scouts, but it's actually kind of been the opposite. He had a 32% caught stealing rate in A-ball in 2025, though the number dipped to about 8.8 to 9% after promotion to high A. Still, 32% caught stealing in A-ball is something you can definitely work off of as a 19-year-old catching prospect. 986 career fielding percentage, which would fare well in Major League Baseball. It would be average to above average for a catcher. Catchers aren't really known to make errors because you really can't afford your catcher to be making errors. 2025 numbers, 112 games across one single A team in Clearwater with Philadelphia and 2 high A teams, both Philadelphia's Jersey Shore and Minnesota's Cedar Rapids. 738 OPS. There's the bat that's pretty average at that level. 32 doubles, 14 homers, 71 RBIs. At high A for both organizations, he had 37 games there. His OPS was 694. So the bat is going to have time to figure it out. He's 19 years old. Projected debut is 2028. I'm going to go 2029, 2030. Needs some work at the dish, like I just said. The power stroke is clearly there. I'll call a spade a spade. The power is there. But there's another catching prospect in their top 30 in Kadeem Diao that's going to get the first look at higher levels as long as he stays healthy. He only played 39 games last year at high A, which is part why Eduardo Tate was already there. He had an 866 OPS, though, in those 39 games. I like Tate more in the long run, especially considering Diao's athleticism might be utilized more in the outfield long term. But Kadeem Diao is going to get those looks before Eduardo Tate. I expect Tate to be debuting around 23, 24 years old when the calendar hits about 2030. Emmanuel Rodriguez, outfielder. He's their 4th overall prospect. MLB's number 74 to begin the season. I talked about him as a riser for 2026 in one of the very early episodes of Minor League Weekly. Again, like I said, I think Callan Culpepper is the most pro ready, but Emmanuel Rodriguez, if Culpepper's 1A, Rodriguez is 1B. Okay. Give me one Twins outfielder that's not named Byron Buxton that you can confidently say that Emmanuel Rodriguez is better when healthy, or that is better than Emmanuel Rodriguez when Emmanuel Rodriguez is healthy. I phrased that a little bit wrong. So I don't think you can. There's not one other outfielder on the Twins major league roster that I could confidently say, other than Byron Buxton, is better than Emmanuel Rodriguez right now. His injuries are not recurring ones. He's been banged up a lot, but they're all different. They're all completely different from each other. It's not like he's got a nagging knee injury or his back keeps getting torn up or thrown out, or like his bicep keeps getting tweaked. Like, they're all different injuries. So there's nothing really to worry about in my eyes. I think he's debuting right away. He, in 52 games last year, just at St. Paul, he had an 852 OPS, 6 homers, 27 RBIs. Strikeouts have been a problem throughout the duration of his minor league career. With the position the Twins are in right now, I think this guy needs to get playing time immediately, because you need to find out if you're going to have another cornerstone outfielder after Byron Buxton either leaves or retires. Their number 5 prospect, Kendry Rojas, left-handed pitcher, also acquired at the 2025 MLB trade deadline. In the Louis Varland and Ty France trade with Toronto, it was Kendry Rojas, Alan Rodin, and I think there's another prospect involved. The stuff is slowly coming together for Kendry Rojas. He's a big left-handed pitcher, 94, 95 average miles per hour on his fastball, tops at 97. His slider's at 86 to 87 miles an hour, but the changeup's only a 45 grade changeup, so he's got to get another solid third pitch in there before I can confidently put Kendry Rojas into my big league starting rotation, simply because he hasn't thrown more than 80 innings in a season since 2023, and that was only 84 innings. He cannot stay healthy. Like I said, common theme here, perpetually injured players for the Minnesota Twins. He had shoulder problems in 2024. That's not good. He missed a large chunk of 2024 to throwing shoulder problems. Abdominal strain in 2025 paused his debut until May 30th. And the numbers with Toronto beforehand, they're kind of spiked simply because he started at such a low level and he's really graduated past the complex leagues, the rookie ball leagues. But that's where he began the season because of his injuries. Post-trade with the Blue Jays, he had 8 starts at St. Paul, and it was, simply put, not pretty. 27 1/3 innings, 1-2 record, a 6.59 ERA. He gave up 37 hits in 27 innings. He also had 23 walks allowed to 28 strikeouts earned. That's about a 1-to-1 ratio. I don't like that for my 5th overall prospect. 314 batting average against, a 2.2 whip, and he had about, for every 10 flyouts, he'd get 7 groundouts. That is not optimal for a guy that's expected to be a dude who I want as the 3rd or 4th option in my rotation to begin his career, a guy that I need to trust every 5th day. I just don't see that yet with Kendry Rojas. This is not a pro-ready arm like some scouts are suggesting. His projected debut is 2026. I'm not agreeing with that. I think it's going to be 2027, probably 2028, if I had to be honest with you. Rojas he absolutely needs a full season under his belt before I'd be comfortable with him pitching every 5th day. Even though the team could really use a left-handed arm in that rotation, I just don't see it right now with Kendry Rojas. No disrespect. The stuff is coming together. It's going to start looking good pretty soon. It's just not right now. Cannot debut yet. My diamond in the rough, the 3rd guy that I was talking about that got traded at the deadline, Enrique Jimenez, another catcher. He's Minnesota's 28th prospect. He was acquired in the Chris Paddock-Randy Dobnak trade with Detroit. He's a 5'9" switch-hitting catcher, below average to average grades across the board, right? So this is a guy, he's also very young, though. He's another 18, 19-year-old catcher. Decent defender. 29% caught stealing last year with the Complex League Tigers and at Single A Fort Myers. The fielding percentage is met 967. It's decent. It's okay for a catcher, first baseman. But the bat, something that was not really known about him prior to the trade was his bat. He was never the greatest hitter, and it exploded after the trade when he was at Single A Fort Myers. 23 games, he had 78 at-bats, 982 OPS with a 550 slug, 21 hits, 6 of them homers. He was hitting a home run more than a quarter of the time he got a hit. 18 RBIs, and he walked a lot too. 23 walks to 24 strikeouts. So he saw the ball pretty well. This is a dude that I really liked. This is one of my more underrated prospects moved at the trade deadline this past year, Enrique Jimenez, but he's getting the same situation as Eduardo Tate. His projected debut is 2029. I'm also going to say 2029, 2030, because like Tate, Kadeem Diallo is going to get the first looks at higher levels before the both of them. And then there's a pecking order here. Tate's going to get more looks at higher levels before Jimenez. But if Jimenez shows continuity with the bat this year, the sky's the limit, A. And B, I could see this guy being grade A trade bait in a few years down the line when the Twins want to compete again. This is a guy that I think they hold on to for leverage purposes. I'm a big fan of trades, if you couldn't already tell. But this is another benefit of having a lot of good catching talent in your system is because they do turn into trade bait. And they do get the major league team better. You're trading for the better stick. Why wait for Jimenez to be a stud rookie catcher in 2030 when you can go get a guy you really need for your bullpen right now? A guy that could save games for you and maybe help you in a playoff push in 2028, 29, right? System strength, really quick. Stud outfielders, just in general. They're all studs. Jenkins, Rodriguez are one thing, but I didn't even get to talk about their number 8 prospect, Gabriel Gonzalez, who might, in the grand scheme of things, end up being better than both of those guys. Really low strikeout percentage, and the ball just started flying off the bat this year. I encourage you to go look up Gabriel Gonzalez's slash line. He is ridiculous. He's going to be very good. The power isn't quite his thing, but this is a dude I can see turning into like a 2020 or 2040 hitter even, where he gets 40 steals, 20 homers, and for sure going to be like 30 to 40 doubles a season. He's got great gap-to-gap power, just doesn't hit it over the fence. Hendry Mendez just had a career year, former Brewers and Phillies prospect. Ricardo Olivar is already 24, but he's beginning to outplay his projections. And Kalai Rosario just hit a career-high 25 homers at AA Wichita. They've got a lot of stud outfielders in this top 30. Their system weakness, I alluded to it earlier, corner infield. They only have one corner infielder in their top 30. That's Billy Amick. He was a third baseman, first baseman at Clemson, transferred to Tennessee, helped them win the College World Series. I know they want Culpepper to move over to third at some point, or at least anywhere that isn't shortstop. But Royce Lewis is always hurt. The Twins have Austin Martin slated as an outfielder for much of 26, so there isn't really a true safety valve in the minor leagues unless Amick goes nuclear this year. Currently, their big league safety valves are Cody Clemens and Ryan Kreidler, who they just brought over from Detroit, but they don't have that safety valve at AAA. They don't have that high-end corner infield prospect. They're not loaded in that department, nor do they need like a top 100 prospect in that department. They just don't have anyone in that department. But that's the Minnesota Twins here. There's a lot to be excited about if you're a Twins fan 3 years from now. They're not going to be great this year. I don't expect anyone other than Rodriguez and Culpepper to debut this year, but they're going to look pretty solid in 2028. I'll give them that.
I've got my eye on Culpepper. I know some people, when they talk about prospects and guys who are drafted, they kind of have this stink to players who play more than a couple of years in college. Culpepper was at Kansas State for 3. All that means is they're more polished and the learning curve isn't going to be as great in rookie ball and single A. I mean, it's not outlandish to say if Kansas State goes up against a team's low A ball club, it's going to be competitive, right? I think people get it jaded that, oh, this guy didn't make pro ball until he's 22 years old. He's not good. No, it's dependent on draft class, need at the moment. Now the draft class has shrunk the last handful of years. Culpepper is a ripe product. That's why you have him jumping from not being ranked all the way to number 2 in the farm system. We're going to hit our promo really, really quick just to let you know, if you missed this episode in a live capacity, where can you find us?
Minor League Weekly podcast? No worries. We've got you covered at Minor League Minute on YouTube and Minor League Weekly on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Then you can go back to watch or listen to the whole episode for all of your prospect and affiliate ball needs. So what are you waiting for? Go follow, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications to get caught up with the latest. That's Minor League Weekly on all of those platforms.
All right, welcome back to Minor League Weekly, the final segment. We do have Derek Bowe commenting. Love Freddy. This is on our first topic. More of a 5-6 inning guy. Not sure if he's really ace material. Great 2, amazing 3, but a weak ace in my opinion. Well, he's going to be joining a rotation with Nolan McLean now. Who is this?
Yeah. I read something on X/Twitter the other night post trade. And I never heard of something more accurate about Freddy Peralta. Yeah, he's got the fastball, but I'd be more in tune to call him full count Freddy, because this guy just loves to work at bats, and he'll get to about 100 pitches before you can say fifth inning. Right. So I somewhat agree here with Derek, but yeah, Freddy Peralta, great arm. Gonna miss him in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I feel like it's clockwork, right? You flip the TV on, he's in the top of the fifth, there's one out, and he's at like 91. Maybe there's only one run allowed, but he's at like 91 pitches already. So, yeah, good call there,
It takes him a while to get there, but he does very good.
He gets there.
Blake Snell diet.
Yeah.
Blake Snell diet.
Exactly.
He had that trouble as well. So.
He's just thorough. He wants to work each at bat as a pitcher. All right, Lakeland Flying Tigers, they're going to round out our title team's feature. We're going to have to find something else to fill this final block here. This is the second Tigers team to win a title in their respective level of the minor leagues. We had the West Michigan Whitecaps, arguably the best team in minor league baseball, regardless of level, a few episodes ago. And the Lakeland Flying Tigers could challenge them for that title. They captured their first Florida League title since 2012, had a 9-2 victory over the Daytona Tortugas. First team in Florida State League history to win both halves of the season and then go undefeated in the postseason. Very hard to do in minor league baseball, have that sense of continuity. When your guys get so good they leave, you got to replace them. Lakeland Flying Tigers, they completely accomplished this. I guess just to kick us off there, this is a team that showed up day one and looked really good on day 132.
Yeah, back at it again with the Tigers, and it really tells you something about their system, especially the lower levels of their system with the single A team, with, of course, the high A team with the Whitecaps that we mentioned, kind of diving deeper, fourth in the Florida State League in OPS, fifth in hits. But on the pitching side, very similar to the Whitecaps, just the dominant staff, gave up the fewest home runs on the pitching side, not even close, just 71 long balls. Every other team in the Florida State League gave up over 80, second fewest batting average again. So their pitching staff really holding it down, and a handful of guys also getting promoted in there. So yeah, really props to that development. And for a team we've talked about that, you know, they're bargaining chip against Tarek Skubal, that money wise at the big league level. Maybe they know something. Maybe they know something down in the lower levels of the minor leagues. You know what? We got some guys down there that can do it in the aggregate. But yeah, really props to them all over the stat sheet.
Yeah, they're a very, very young top 30 system in baseball, which sounds kind of, you know, like, hey, aren't all top 30s pretty young, right? They're all about 20, 22 years old. But no, these guys are all about 18, 19, 20. Many of their top 30 are also below the A-ball ranks. They're either at Lakeland or in rookie ball. So I think Lakeland's going to see a very solid team for at least a few more years outside of 2025. And that's not even to mention West Michigan's also going to see that. Detroit in general, I think they're in a good spot right now with, even if they were to move Tarek Skubal, yeah, that means they're kind of punting 2026, but not really. They're still going to be competitive, and come 2028, 2029, they're going to be a very nasty team at the big league level.
Depending on what happens with CBA talks, this could be a title team. Like, winning it all. I don't think they can do it this year anymore, especially after they lowballed Tarek. But, you know, give it a couple years, like you said, Sam. They've got the upper level, mid-level, and lower tier minor league. It's all covered with guys who are 18, 19, 20 years old and could blossom. Which players stuck out from this team specifically, the Flying Tigers? I threw Jackson Strong in there. Great baseball name. 5 home runs, 42 RBI, 277 batting average. A team best 6 triples. I feel like people usually don't expound on triples. I think regardless of the situation, right? 2 on, nobody out. 2 out, nobody on. A triple's a great rally starter, and it can also completely flip an inning on its head, no matter the situation. Strong's got that respect 90 mentality that you want in a young prospect. Played 72 games in a Flying Tigers jersey this year before getting that promotion to high A. He's not your Max Clark. He's not your McGonigal. He's not some of your top-end pitching prospects you'll hear about in this system. But he's someone I think will debut with the Tigers in the next couple of years here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a pitcher just continuing to add to their dominance. Was a huge part of it. Lucas Elisat, 5-1 with a 2.48 ERA, 16 games. He started 10 of them, allowed 18 earned runs and a 183 batting average against. Similarly to Strong, was promoted to High A West Michigan by season's end. A dominant and versatility. Again, you see in there the 6 games where they brought him out of the bullpen, had some games, the walks are the biggest thing for him, but really starting out there, he had a really great 6-start stretch there for Lakeland, where just dominant, strikeouts plentiful, the walks were down, he was getting at least 6 innings there during the game. So yeah, Elisat's a player to watch. Again, going to be adjustments, control is going to be the biggest thing for him.
I'm going to close this out with another common theme here. A guy who also got promoted to High A West Michigan by season's end. But this guy is not quite the youngster that I was just talking about, the Detroit top 30 being filled with. This guy's not on Detroit's top 30. He's 25 years old, Garrett Pennington over at first base. Slash line at 282, 353, 493. That's an 846 OPS in 65 games before promotion. 16 doubles, 10 homers. So this dude's 2020. 43 RBIs as well. Only 45 strikeouts in 65 games. So good plate discipline, good contact. Went undrafted in 2024 after college ball at 3 different schools. He was at Central Missouri, Wichita State, and North Carolina State. Very successful college career. But he's also, like you were talking about with Culpepper in the Twins system, he's a guy that's why teams are wary about drafting a 23-year-old out of college, right? More often than not, it should work out, but there are the few cases where it doesn't work out, and I doubt Pennington really ever sees big league ball, considering he is 25 years old now. What much more molding can they do for a 25-year-old? But he's still solid. This is a guy that, he's the vet, if you will, in Detroit's minor league system. There's still some value to a guy like Garrett Pennington.
He's a glue guy. I like those stories, right? Underdog story. Maybe he doesn't see the big league ball club, but like you said, Sam, bit of a fall from grace, but he's contributing. He got himself a ring, regardless of the level. Still pro ball.
At the end of the day, Garrett Pennington's closer to Miguel Cabrera than I am to Garrett Pennington. So he's still
Scalabrini quote, right?
To brag about at the end of the day. Yep.
What was his? Was it I'm closer to LeBron or I'm closer to Jordan?
I'm closer to Michael Jordan than you are to me, I believe. It was either Jordan or LeBron. It was one of the two. Let me look it up while we're still here.
And then he 11-0'd
it was definitely one of the two. It was LeBron. He said, I may suck as an NBA player, but you suck compared to me. I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me. And he is absolutely not wrong about that. Not one bit.
What a legend. That's how we're going to wrap it up today. I think that's a good way to put a bow on the entire episode. A lot of activity, especially in the trade market. We'll see what next week brings. Probably going to start breaking down the MLB Top 100 Prospects list refreshed for 2026. Thank you so much for joining us. Do all the things. Leave a like, subscribe. Make sure you comment any video suggestions or what you want us to bring up in the upcoming episodes. And we will catch you next week. Every story starts somewhere, and in baseball, that somewhere is the minors. The breakout stars.
Early on in day 3 of the draft, the Pirates called.
The wild moments, and the prospects you need to know about.
A sub-3 ERA in both single and double A.
This is Minor League Weekly, your inside look at the future of the game.